This is Cyber Brief. If you care about what's getting broken on the internet, this is your weekly top 5. 3 of this week's 5 CVEs are listed in CISA's Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog. The rest score critical. This is the Active Exploitation Edition. On the list this week, Oracle, Checkpoint, and Litespeedtech. Week of June 27-28, 2026, starting at number 5. Number 5. A critical authentication flaw in Microsoft's Azure Active Directory could let an outsider elevate their privileges over a network, no credentials required. Azure Active Directory is Microsoft's cloud-based identity service. It's the system that decides who you are and what you're allowed to access across an organization's apps, files, and services. The flaw here is improper authentication, meaning the service can be made to accept a request as legitimate when it shouldn't. An unauthorized attacker operating over a network could exploit this to elevate their privileges, essentially promoting themselves from an outsider or low-level account to someone with far greater access rights. Once privilege elevation succeeds, an attacker could potentially reach data, administrative controls, or connected systems that would otherwise be completely off-limits. Because Azure Active Directory sits at the center of so many organizations' digital infrastructure, a foothold here could ripple outward across every service tied to it. No active exploitation is stated in the available facts. Because the attack vector is listed as network-based, any organization using Azure Active Directory as part of their identity infrastructure could potentially be in scope. Improper authentication flaws of this class typically require no valid credentials to trigger, meaning an outsider could attempt to escalate privileges without first having any legitimate standing in the system. Anyone using Microsoft's products should apply the latest security update to stay protected. Up next. Number 4. A crafted web page in Chrome for Android could break out of the browser's sandbox entirely and reach the rest of your device. Google Chrome runs web content inside a protected sandbox, a walled-off container designed to keep websites from touching anything else on your phone. The flaw here is in WebGL, the part of Chrome that renders advanced graphics inside web pages. The vulnerability is a memory management error known as a use after free. A piece of memory gets freed. The browser can still be made to act on it, allowing an attacker to take control of that memory region in unexpected ways. A remote attacker could exploit this simply by getting a target to visit a specially crafted HTML page, no app to download, no file to open. If that succeeds, the attacker could potentially escape Chrome's sandbox entirely, meaning they'd move beyond the browser and gain access to the broader Android system underneath it. Because the trigger is a crafted web page, just visiting a malicious site could be enough. A sandbox escape of this class, if successfully triggered, could allow an attacker to run code outside the browser's protections on the device. Anyone using Google's products should apply the latest security update to stay protected. Halfway there. Number 3. A symlink flaw in Litespeed's hosting plugins is already being exploited, letting low-level users break out of their isolated containers on shared servers. Litespeed makes popular plugins for cPanel and WHM, the control panels that web hosting companies use to manage thousands of customer websites on a single shared server. To keep those customers isolated from each other, many hosts run a system called Cloud Linux with CageFS. Think of it as a cage that locks each tenant into their own corner. The flaw here involves symlinks, which are essentially shortcuts that point to files elsewhere on the system. When a user who already has FTP access or web shell access to their hosting account supplies a crafted symlink, the Litespeed plugin does not handle it correctly. That mishandling could allow the symlink to point outside the user's cage, potentially reaching files belonging to other tenants or the underlying server itself, files that should be completely off-limits. This is in CISA's Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog. It's already being exploited. According to the advisory, this exploitation occurred in the wild in May 2026. Any organization running a shared hosting environment with these Litespeed plugins alongside Cloud Linux and CageFS could be affected. The attack requires some form of existing low-level access, FTP credentials, a web shell. But once that foothold exists, this class of flaw may enable one tenant to read or influence another tenant's data without authorization. This one is already being exploited, so anyone using Litespeedtech's products should make sure they have installed the latest security update. Almost at the top. Number 2. A logic flaw in Checkpoint's network security hardware lets attackers slip into a corporate VPN without ever supplying a valid password. Checkpoint's Quantum Spark appliances and Gaia operating system are network security gateways, devices that sit at the edge of a company's network and decide what remote users can connect. These appliances support a remote access and mobile access feature that lets employees tunnel securely into the corporate network from outside. The flaw lives in how the deprecated CISA KEV key exchange handles certificate validation during that process. Because of a logic weakness in authentication, an unauthenticated remote attacker can bypass the password check entirely and establish a fully valid VPN connection. That means an outsider could gain the same network foothold as a legitimate remote employee, without credentials, without an account, and without any prior access. The attacker would land inside a network perimeter that most organizations treat as trusted. This is in CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. It's already being exploited. The attack targets the remote access feature of edge security appliances, so any organization running affected Checkpoint Quantum Spark or Gaia hardware with remote access or mobile access enabled could be exposed. No user interaction appears to be required, and exploitation requires no valid credentials. If exploited, this class of authentication bypass flaw could allow an outsider to move freely within the internal network environment the gateway is meant to protect. This one is already being exploited, so anyone using Checkpoint's products should make sure they have installed the latest security update. And the top spot this week? Number 1. An unauthenticated attacker can reach Oracle's PeopleSoft over the web and take complete control. No password, no tricks, no warning. PeopleSoft Enterprise People Tools is Oracle's platform for building and running enterprise business applications, think HR systems, payroll, financial management for large organizations. The flaw lives specifically in the Updates Environment Management component, which handles how the platform receives and applies updates. The vulnerability is a missing authentication check, meaning an attacker doesn't need any credentials whatsoever. They simply send crafted HTTP requests across the network and the system lets them in. From there, the advisory states the result is a full takeover of the PeopleSoft environment, meaning an attacker could read, alter, destroy data, and disrupt the availability of the entire platform. There's no complexity required and no need to trick a user into clicking anything. The attack path is entirely attacker-driven over a standard web connection. This is in CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. It's already being exploited. Because the attack travels over HTTP with no authentication required, any organization exposing this PeopleSoft environment to a network, including the internet, is directly in scope. A successful attack could hand an outsider complete control over systems that often sit at the core of an organization's human resources, finance, or administrative operations. This one is already being exploited, so anyone using Oracle's products should make sure they have installed the latest security update. That's the top 5 for this week. Whether you're here to triage your patching queue or just to stay sharp on the evolving threat landscape, if this brief added value, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm push this content to more people who care about security. Drop a comment if there's a CVE we should have covered, or one you've already seen in the wild. That's how we build a better watch list together. New Cyber Brief shorts drop every weekday, and the new top 5 lands every Thursday afternoon. Until next week. Cyber threats don't wait, neither should you. Subscribe.